Resuming Weird World Order broadcast. Dynaphones connected. Initiating broadcast signal in
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, this is the Nerd World Order broadcast. I am the man that you call Dukes, and to my right, here comes the...
Booyah! What's up? It's your boy Joe, baby.
And to my other right, weighing in at 178 adamantium-filled pounds, Alfonso X-Man Flores.
Faith in Bigora, boyo.
Ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, thank you and welcome back to this episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. We're going to be discussing Stranger Things. We're going to talk about all the quests, the 4 quests of season 4 of Stranger Things. Let's jump right into it, gentlemen. Alfonso, can you tell me about your introduction into Stranger Things?
The way I got started in Stranger Things was fairly simple. You know, I started seeing commercials for it on Netflix or, popping up here, people posting in the NWO. And I'm like, you know what? This is for me. I love the kids' underdog story. I love the 80s flashbacks. I'm ready to go. So, all the media got me.
Nice. Very nice. Joe.
For me, it wasn't the same. Like, I think my kids were watching it, and then you and Alan were watching it. We were at the Comic-Con in like the line for The Walking Dead, if I'm not mistaken. And that was a long line. Dude. We were there for a while. But I remember you and Alan kept talking about Stranger Things and how good it was and trying to convince me to watch it. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it. And you're like, season 3 is coming out. You need to watch it. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. And then you guys were like, hey, we should do a podcast about that, the Stranger Things. I'm like, oh, now I got to watch it. And so I think I like binge watched the first 2 seasons right up to season 3. And I kept going. The bad thing about that is who'd have thought, like, what maybe 5 years, 3 years, maybe 3 years later, they came out with like season 4. I had to wait that long after season 3. Because my favorite, I don't know what you guys are. My favorite is 3, 1, and 2. Before season 4.
Why that order?
The first one, it was a good introduction. Second one was kind of slow for me a bit compared to the first one, I thought, for me though. And season 3, man, I really like Steven. So like, the whole Steven, his character, they did a really good job going from like a bully, to like one of the main heroes. And then his relationship with Dustin. I love Dustin too. So, I mean, I like those characters, bro. If I remember the names, I'm bad at names. What about you?
For me, I have to say that, first of all, my introduction, shout out to Matt Morosi. Always welcome to come back. Right now, Matt Morosi has his own podcast. He actually started off working with us here on the Nerd World Order broadcast. He wanted to do more video stuff. By the way, we're live and direct, Nerd World Order. You can catch us on the YouTubes. You can catch us in the Nerd World Order community. And for some reason, my friends and family can watch me as well on the Alan Dukes personal Facebook page. But anyway, shout out to Matt Morosi doing Nerd Enthusiast probably about almost maybe 10 years ago now. Back when I was working at a little company called Time Warner Cable. Matt Morosi rolled up and he says, Dukes, you got to watch this show. It's called Stranger Things. And I was like, dude, that looks dumb. I don't see no stupid kids, because you guys know I hate shows that have teenagers, kids as like the main characters. And he's like, Dukes, you have to watch this. It's so good. I'm like, okay, Matt, I'll watch one episode, because Matt's a sharp dude and we have similar tastes. So I watched it and I was like, dude, these guys are the guys that I hung out with in high school. These guys, even though they were only in elementary school, but I was a nerd in elementary school too. I'm not trying to front like I wasn't. I was like, dude, I can totally relate to these characters. I can totally relate to, oh, they're in a Ghostbusters and, now they're playing D&D. Immediately fell in love with the show. So that was my introduction. I don't have like an order like Joe does, like, 3, 2, 1, 4, 2, 1, 3 or anything like that. I just really enjoy the show. I don't remember all the characters, all their names, but I do remember Steve, Dustin, and Lucas. Will and Mike, to me, Will and Mike are the same dude as far as I'm concerned. Bad haircut city. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't tell those two apart.
Right.
Nancy, she's dope. Barb, she died. But yeah, I can't remember everyone else. So yeah. Absolutely. So this episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast, we are going to be talking about Stranger Things Season 4. Alfonso came up with an awesome idea. Let's just not go 1 through 7 because anybody can do that. If you do that, you're lazy. You're not Nerds Redefined. We're redefining. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the four quests of Season 4. Alfonso, why don't you lay out the 4 quests we're going to be talking about today?
All right. First of all, let me roll my 20-sided die to see which one goes first. Clack, 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 clack. Oh, I don't have one. I was just kidding. All right. So we've got Quest Vecna. All right. The Vecna quest that takes place in Hawkins. All right. That gives you, your newest guy, Eddie Munson, who we all love. You've got Dustin, Lucas, Nancy, Steve Harrington, who is a badass. We got Max, we got Robin, and then of course they're facing off against the Jocks and Vecna. So then we've got Quest for 11. That's our Los Angeles team. We've got Mike, 11, Jonathan, Will, Argyle, fan favorite, Susie, against the popular kids, and their main thing is they're finding 11, right? And then of course I think it's a lot of fun. The Quest for Hopper. That's they're out in Russia. You've got Murray, Hopper, and Joyce. I mean, that's pretty much it. And they're fighting the Russians in the Demogorgon.
Let's start off with the Quest for Hopper. By the way, ladies, gentlemen, and knights, there will be spoilers. We've gone 3 weeks. I've been all around the world stuff, and I've been all around the country. These guys had to wait on me. They were like, Dukes, let's review episode 4. And I was like, I'm not caught up yet. So if you haven't seen it by now, I'm sorry, because I was late. Okay. Everyone else watched it except me. So hold on here. We actually got a comment from a member of the Nerd World Order. They caught a case of the COVID while at AEW almost 2 weeks ago. Finally binged all 4 episodes. Love how the show stays within the convictions. Within its convictions? Okay, we'll run with that. Big words. I'm trying to be a nerd. Don't hit me with them big words. And how nerdy it wants to be in the best way possible. That's what a member of the NWO is saying. First of all, I'm sorry you got COVID at the AEW. From what I understand, that may have been going around at the AEW. But you got to binge season 4 or seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4. Awesome. So feel free to comment as we're talking. We're going to start off with the Quest for Hopper in Mother Russia. Alfonso, can you give us a decent Russian accent?
Let me see. What is it that Colossus always says? Buish mio. Or Katiana, my little snowflake. Iliana. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, that's all we need.
All my accents are colored by X-Men. I mean, that's the only way I can figure it out.
Hey,
I always want to just say Asfadanya. Like that's what I was Asfadanya.
That's what but I must break you.
Jump into it, Joe. Can you tell us about your thoughts on the Quest for Hopper?
Yeah, it was cool to see, because we all had our theories about whether or not Hopper did go through the other side to Russia. I thought it was cool, and I'm bad with names, but what's the dude that's helping Murray? I thought it was a bright point with him learning karate.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty funny, because like he just looks goofy. He doesn't look like he knows any karate. And then he's like, hey, I've been studying karate, but I've been only practicing it. and you're just like, this fool can't fight, dude. We all say that. You know what I mean? Growing up, we all act like, oh, this guy takes karate. We don't know anything, bro. Straight up white belts. But it was kind of funny when he was fighting on the plane. And I was like, wow, I guess he can get down a little bit. So that was pretty cool, like, but that wasn't my favorite parts to watch. It's like, like certain parts of the movies, you kind of can't wait to get to the part that you really want to see. But I mean, that part was okay.
Alfonso, our resident, what are you, white belt, yellow belt,
Purple
brown belt? Purple belt. Dang.
I had my brown belt in this system 25 years ago in American Kempo. So it's like when he came back, they're like, oh, you want to start a brown belt? Like, you know what? I want to start at the beginning because it's always good to have a solid foundation. And my body don't move the way it did before. I've got a different center of gravity. I wanted to start from the beginning, started with my kids, working our way up. And now I'm just surpassing them because, I'm that good.
Nice. So he's our resident purple belt. So, Alfonso, what are your thoughts on the quest for Hopper?
I'm really digging it. I mean, I don't know if it's that, the corny karate, angle from Murray. I thought that it's just hilarious, I love how he's like, well, I know I'm a black belt. I know this stuff. And then it happens so often that you never really practically use it. You'll spar with people, but everybody's kind of doing the same thing. But, in a real life situation, how well can you handle yourself, right? And I love that he had to discover that, and he basically had to, fight or flight, and he was already on the flight, so he had to fight, right? Because he wasn't going nowhere else. And then, the whole thing with, Joyce getting the doll and then popping it open because it was cracked and finding the note. And she's like, what? And, it was like an internet scam before there were internet scams, right? If you can save this Nigerian prince if you only donate, whatever. But yeah, that was pretty neat because back then, everybody's got landlines, you got pay phones, and she calls the guy up and he answers on a payphone conveniently, right? And you got this old woman in the back yelling and rushing at him. And Murray, of course, as we found out in last season, could speak a little bit of Russian, so he was the translator. But it was just weird to see them like they're in Los Angeles. Well, we're going to fly to Alaska. Well, from Alaska, we're going to fly to Russia. It's like they're world travelers now. These three, it's like, oh, that was the 80s for us, right, guys? It's like mom, dad, oh, hey, we're going to go somewhere. You just watch out for your little brother. All right, we'll be right back. And then they come back like a month later, with Hopper from Russia. It's that same old story, right? But it's just, I remember that feeling of like, man, are they coming back? It's like, I guess a lot of that really resonated with me because so many different, situations there. It was great. I enjoyed it. I have a lot of fun with pretty much everything I watch, and I was really having fun with that. What about you, Dukes?
Well, I'm going to take the position of being the cloud of negativity. I'm going to rain a little bit of negativity on the quest for Hopper. It was too much comedy. I couldn't get into it because every character was goofy. Every plot point was goofy. Like, oh, go outside and put the doll on the ground and then make a contraption and you have to drop a rock on the doll. And then the neighbors are like, oh my God, what's she doing? Mind your own business, neighbor. How about you do that? And then like, oh, now we're going to take a quest and have this goofy guy double cross us. Like, how dumb do the two of you have to be to have this goofy guy overpower you and double cross you, right? And then he's flying and how many, oh my God, dude, talk about a 1980s movie trope, okay?
Right.
How many times have you guys seen someone get shot or the bullet goes through the windshield, they fall on the control, and then the plane suddenly going down? How many times you guys seen that?
Every single airplane movie in the 80s.
Every single one. Okay? Everything about the quest for Hopper was dumb. And then my boy Hopper, like, he just got, okay, he had the sickest, just the best escape ever in the history of Netflix. And then he's just like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hide out in this building, right? And he just got caught, right? It was so anticlimactic. He got caught. And then even his fight with the
Demigorgon.
Gorgonaut,
Yeah.
Gorgonite.
Demigorgon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Demigorgon. I believe Gorgonite's perhaps. I don't know what it is. I'll make up a lie later. I'll edit it in. I don't know what a Gorgonite is. Liar. So then, the Demigorgon, right? That was the worst fight ever. Okay. Yeah. It was basically like, hey, all you Russian guys, why don't you put on some red shirts? Okay. Because that's all they were red shirts.
Right.
And then, like, basically, Hopper's fight, like, come on, bro. Like, you wouldn't be afraid of that flame that was on the end of his spear, okay? Like, if the Demigorgon had taken opportunity to sneeze, then that spear would have been done with that flame on the end. It was horrible.
Right.
So everything about the quest for Hopper was ridiculous, stupid, poorly written. So I know you guys didn't ask for nerd flags, but no nerd flags for the quest for Hopper. Any thoughts on that, gentlemen?
I do have one. One nice thing about the quest for Hopper is we got a backstory to Hopper's family problems, right? We knew that he had a kid. We knew that he had a wife. We knew that he lost them, but we never really knew how. So this season explained all that. So, dude, that was sad.
Well, I'm going to jump in real fast and let you guys know what I thought about it. I didn't care. I really just didn't care about Hopper's backstory because you know what, Hopper? Now you got 11. What about you, Joe?
Well, that's so messed up. but well, like in the 80s, you remember it was like a big thing with Russia. You remember whether or not they're going to go to war with us. So I can see why they say take it outside, break the thing. Because you got to remember in the 80s, they don't really have too many tools that can help them figure out what's inside that. So I can kind of see that. And dude, in the 80s, man, noses were always neighbors were always nosy, man. What are you doing over there, boy? No, don't worry about it, lady. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna tell your mama, like, get in your house. You know, it's always like that. But dude, okay. See, like, this is one of my least favorites, and then the more you're talking, the more I remember about certain things. Did he break his ankle?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
then he started walking like he was fine. And then, like, I don't understand because he was walking like he's fine. And then did he break his ankle back, like, when he got out of it? Like, I don't know.
Okay, so my theory on this is, okay, first of all, he was taking whatever black chrysanthemum was taking. You know, 1 minute his leg is hurt, the next one he's fine. But, you know, the thing is, with all that ice, it kept the swelling down, right? So he was probably able to just reset it. Sure, he was in pain, but he was willing to go through that pain because he had to get out of that Russian prison. I mean, nobody wants to be in the gulag.
Yeah. That's Call of Duty, Alan, the gulag. Alan was like, gulag, what's that?
Okay, here's one thing I do know. There's a little thing called frostbite, okay? Now, if you run several miles in the snow with no shoes on, Hopper, you're going to get the frostbite.
Yeah, but isn't his ankle broke?
But the skin on his feet would have frozen, causing frostbite. But for some reason, Hopper, I guess everyone gets superpowers now, and Hopper is just like invulnerable. So yeah. Any good things you guys want to say about the quest for Hopper before we move on to another quest?
Yeah.
It's on you, Alfonso.
Yeah, it's not a lot of. I mean, it's the smallest of the stories that we've gotten, right? It was kind of exciting for me. It was a little, espionage, KGB, whatnot. The prison. Yeah, it wasn't. Again, you're right. It wasn't the greatest. I had a lot of fun with it personally. I like how we have to feed it, and we can have a little sport, right? A predator's always going to eat better if the prey tries to fight back, right? It's not just going to sit there and pick at something that's dead and have a healthy full life, right? So it's like they constantly, oh yeah, go get some spears, get some arrows, you're gonna be fine. Go and fight it, get a sword, and then like it was like what do you call it, gladiator arena for them. They had a good time with it. So
Well, Alfonso, we can always count on you to bring a shining moment to an otherwise horrible adventure in Russia. Um,
Yeah.
let's move it over to our friends in California. Let's talk about the quest for L coming from California. Alfonso, can you give us kind of an overview of what that was about?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Joyce decided, she's like, I'm getting out of Hawkins. There's too much crazy crap going on here. We're done. So at the end of season 3, they packed up the U-Haul and they're like, you know what? We're going to take 11 with us because there is no Hopper to take care of her. So they gave her her original name. I forget what it is, but they just basically gave her a new name, a new identity, and then went to California to live there. While in California, they're having a very difficult time. You know, Will's quiet as always. 11 doesn't have her powers, and she's also finding out what it's like to be bullied constantly. People aren't really taking to her because of her, slow speech mannerisms and her awkwardness and just her childlike view of things, right? So they really look down on her, and of course she's an easy target for like cheerleaders and whatnot. And Mike is going to come visit her. It's her boyfriend. He's super excited to see her. She's been lying to him the whole time, saying, "Oh, I have all these friends, like the ones that are the worst bullies of all. Oh, this is my best friend, Angela, I think." And so, of course, everything's going to come to a boil as soon as he gets there.
Joe, what do you think of the California quest?
I just have a quick question. Why is Mike coming from where he's at, but acting like he's from California?
He's trying to fit in, man.
But it's like, maybe it's just me, but like in this group, Mike really got on my nerves.
Right.
Like, he just got on my nerves. Like, I was just like, he went nowhere, like, other than get on my nerves. Him and Will. And not that there's anything wrong with it. I think Will is gay. And yeah. I think he really likes Mike. I think that's what he's trying to tell him. I could be wrong, but that's what I was, when I was watching it, that's what I was thinking it was.
Yeah.
Because he's just, when you don't get jealous like that when you know what I mean? You don't spend time with me. You're only caring about her. You're not caring about, we're best friends. I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I guess, I don't know if you would do that. I don't know. Me and Alan would never do that. You know, I mean, Alan was a pimp back in the day. He had more girlfriends than me. I was never like, hey man, we're not hanging out because you're hanging out with your girlfriends. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, over analyzing that, but that whole thing kind of got on my nerves. The bullying I get because, in that time period, that's what kids do. They bully people they don't understand. And so I get that part and why they did that, but I don't know, dude. I wasn't really that much interested in that one either. Like, it's okay, but I don't think it did anything. It's definitely better than the Harper quest for sure. But that's not saying much.
Well, it's not saying much, and I do have to agree. It's better than I don't know, breaking your ankle and then getting frostbite. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, Argyle, sorry, Alfonso, was so annoying. He was so annoying. I don't care if the dude smokes pot. Like, I really don't. It's not something like, wow, this is so funny because he's smoking pot. You know what, bro? I drink water. Okay. It's not a plot device. It's not funny. Yeah. It doesn't move the story forward. He works at the pizza store or the pizza shop. Okay. I used to slang popcorn when I was 16, 17. Okay. He ain't going to make that into a TV show. Argyle was so annoying. And then, when the adults went away off to their Russian boring adventure and the kids had their own adventure. So you mean to tell me this one dude is able to basically shoot his way out of a military squadron? That's Call of Duty, Joe. And then he's rescued by the pizza truck guy. And this dude, the pizza van, outruns the military guys. What?
Yeah.
And then remember the scene when they're like, "Oh, he gave me the pin, and maybe there's something secret in the pin." Yeah, I figured it out. Really? That just that just felt so contrived. Everything about the California quest just felt so contrived and so poorly written. And I'm going to say the same thing that I said about the quest for Hopper, the California quest. There's too many goofy characters. There's too much hijinks. There's too much comedy in the California quest. I didn't like it. But you guys feel free to tell me what you did like about the California quest, because I know I sound like negative Nancy.
Well, you know, one thing that they don't nobody really ever touched on. Now, I've seen a lot of posts out there about like, oh, it was Will's birthday. You know, Will was so excited because it was his birthday and he didn't get a birthday present, right? And they're saying, oh, the writers forgot about it. But in my opinion, I think he got 16 candled. You know what I mean? It's like the movie classic 80s trope. Oh, it's my birthday. They forgot my birthday. This sucks. Everything sucks, right? So that's kind of what I got out of that. You know, and then them going to the roller skating rink and you know, Mike find out that you know, it's like Elle is not as popular as she said, and that everybody's kind of picking on her, and you know, they play the song Wipeout and they throw a slushie in her face and everybody's laughing. And then Al's like, or even before that, you know, when she was in school and she was being picked on and she like stuck her arm out like she was going to telekinetically rip her in half, which she probably would have, right? If she had those powers, she would have just ripped her in half, but she wasn't able to do it. So everybody made fun of her because of that. And they did the same thing at the skating ring. So I was like, you know what? I got this roller skate right here. I'm going to bust your nose open with that. That was kind of cool. You know, it was good to see her fight back like that. She didn't kill her. You know, she hurt her, probably sent her to the hospital. But, you know, sometimes you got to go after the bully head on.
Dude, here's another thing that's wrong with it. So, like, before she even got all that recorded, you know, when they recorded it, threw some shades on her.
Right.
Will was already looking like he knew what was up.
Oh, yeah.
He goes to school. He knows what's up. He can't look over and, yeah, yo, Mikey, she's about ready to get jumped on. You know what I mean? We should probably go out there. You know what I mean? And then Mike's sitting there looking the whole time, stunned. Oh, I can't believe this is happening. Bro, like, if you really care about, I don't know, if I care about a girl, bro, and I feel like they're getting about ready to get jacked, I'm going to roll my butt out there on my roller skates and be like, what are you guys doing? You're not going to do that. You know, take the brunt of the milkshake. I don't know. You know, it's just, and then afterwards when she goes away, then he's like, oh, I should have did this. I should have did that. Well, you come with your little funky shirt on and your hat and your glasses. And I'm like, who the hell is this kid, bro? Like, I was confused because I was like, wait, is he coming from California or is he going to California? Because he doesn't, I'm like, bro, like, I don't even, where they at, Smallville? I don't even know where they're at, bro. Whatever town they're in, bro. You know those fools don't be dressing like that.
I believe it's a town called Hawkins.
Okay,
I
there we
don't know
go.
where Hawkins is on a map, but I know it's called Hawkins. Now, getting back to the first half of, I'll say, the L story arc, man, I don't know how I was supposed to feel, but let's not try to make me angry while I'm trying to enjoy a show, because Elle just got bullied.
Yeah.
Like, thoroughly bullied. And she didn't fight back. And when she did, she got in trouble. And Joe, you bring up such an excellent point, right? It's like, if my wife is sitting, I don't know why she's in the roller rink, but she is, right? For some reason, she's at the roller rink, reliving her teenage days. I don't know. But anyway, and I see someone creeping up on her, and fools are like, you know, swirling around her like a pack of hyenas. Bro, I'm going to step out there. Doesn't matter if it's either of you. If my bros are in distress, I'm not going to sit there with this goofy look on my face, to your point, Joe. I'm going to jump out there. And why did that whole scene happen? That whole scene showed the ineffectiveness of Mike. Go ahead, Joe. I'm pissed off.
Dude. I can validate that story, because let me tell you a quick story real quick. We was in Mexico, and shout out to John. And we were in Mexico. It was me, Alan, I think maybe Anthony. We was in Mexico. And they were like, shout out to Antu. And there was like a mosh pit. And this dude was getting in freaking John's face. So before I start walking, Alan moves me out of the way, walks over there, gets in the dude's face, pushes him and said, what's up? Duke's like, oh, I'm good, man. I'm good. And that was that. So I can validate that story. Like Duke's will roll up on somebody and be like, it ain't going down like that, right? Bro, and here's another thing. Okay. You already have a fan base that supports Elle. You don't need to do a story arc of her getting bullied for us to like her more. We already like her. That's just wasted hype for us to get, like really feel sorry for someone that lost their powers. I mean, I get it. She wasn't growing up like the rest of the kids, and you will get bullied. But it would be more acceptable for me if they were bullying Will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because what he went through in the first season, you forgot about Will, even in the second season. So if he gets bullied in this season, and then you have Mike try to be a protector for him in Elle, that's for me, that would have been a lot more easier to accept than them bullying Elle, because she's already supported by a lot of fans.
Right. Makes sense.
I agree 100% with that, Joe. You touched on something, and it's interesting that you got the vibe from Will that I got too. I don't know if Will is just a bad actor, the actor he plays is just a bad actor, but I also got sort of the, like, his vibe was more that of a romantic longing than a standard bro longing, and he did come across whiny. I mean, yeah, maybe they forgot his birthday, which is lazy writing, because no matter how poor mom is, right, she's got something hidden somewhere in that house, even if it's just a card to say happy birthday. So I thought that was lazy writing, but there is something up with Will, and I agree. And I mean, if it turns out that he is gay, cool, better for him. I hope that he does run into someone who he really likes. Unfortunately for him, it probably won't be Mike, but I did get that vibe as well, and it's interesting that you caught on to it as well. And I'd love to hear from the ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the iamnwo. What you guys think about that?
Yeah.
Alfonso, any additional thoughts about the California clique? Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, with Will, I mean, you even saw that part where he was in the class and he had both his feet out to one side, and this girl's like, "What's up?" And then she starts to slide her feet over, and he's like, "Ugh," no. So I can see him going that direction. I could also see him, it's like, that's my best friend. We've been through so much together, and like, he hasn't once written me. He's only all over gushing all over Elle, and then Elle's freaking out because he's not saying he loves her anymore. So it's teen angst. It's teen angst. Where they go with it, it'll be fun to watch. I can't wait to see. But
which I don't have a problem with him if he does like guys. I don't care about that.
No,
if they do that, to Alan's point, that's just lazy writing. You're in season 4, right? And then you're going to do season 5. I think season 5 might be the last season. That you're going to wait to season 4. You know what I mean? Something like that should have been done in between 2 and 3, maybe, if they're going to go that route. Or maybe, to your point, Alan, he's just a not believable actor, and they don't know what to do with the guy. You know, because since season 1, what has he contributed? Nothing. So what's he going to contribute this one? You don't call me, or you don't write me letters. I mean, that's how he's relevant in this season.
Right.
That's how it seems. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, I agree. Other than a bad haircut, nothing. Mike has been the master of bad haircuts. Both him and Mike, that's what they share in common. They probably go to the same barber. However, speaking of a dude with a great haircut, Eddie Munson was introduced as part of the of another quest, the quest for Vecna. Alfonso, why don't you walk us through the quest for Vecna, what they were doing?
Well, back in Hawkins, I believe it's Louisiana, could be wrong, but anyways, back in Hawkinsville, they, the boys are still hanging out. They introduce the Hellfire Club, which is a new D&D group they belong to now that they're in high school. They have, they played D&D back in the day, but now that they're in high school, they have an existing club that plays D&D. So it's a little more mature. So they're Dustin and Lucas are all excited to be in there, and Max not so much. Is there one more who's there? Anyways, so they go to play, and Lucas he's not playing D&D with him as much anymore because he starts playing basketball, and he's like, he's want to become part of the popular kids, the jocks, so that he could be like, go to the parties and everything. He's like, but you know what? Don't worry, guys. I'm not going to forget you. I'm going to bring you along when I go to those parties. I just got to get in. He's still looking out for his boys, which is super cool. You've got the Hellfire Club there playing D&D. Then you've got Max, and Max is going through some stuff. She lost her brother Billy in last season. She's super sad about it. She's always in her headphones, and she's even distanced herself from Lucas. They're not dating anymore, and she's having some issues. Then they introduce a few characters, some new red shirt characters that they got to bring in because, of course, you got to fall in love with somebody else for them to kill, so that way you stay invested. You got the cheerleader. She's getting her stuff from Eddie Munson, and it turns out like he's not the big jerk everybody thought he was. He's not some metalhead. He's pretty insightful, and they have like this awesome conversation in the woods, and he's getting her what she needs, and she's wanting something a little stronger because she's having too hard of a time, and she's starting to see things, and this grandfather clock just keeps popping up, and she's getting creeped out and eerie feelings about it. I won't go too much more into that, but what are you guys thinking about this part of it so far? Joe?
Well, is Eddie like Steve 2.0? Because he has the same format. But you know what, though? I'm okay with that format because it kind of works.
Right.
Because he's basically a Steve 2.0, right? So, Dustin has gravitated more to Eddie, and Steve's jealous. And then, as Eddie and Steve start to talk to each other, you can see, Dustin just thinks the world of both of them, and they're basically just telling each other, hey, he likes you a lot for this, and, vice versa. That was more intriguing for me, that little story arc with Eddie, because Eddie's a cool character. They've introduced, I can't even remember the dude that gets smoked weed that Alan was talking about, Urkula, what? I don't remember the name.
Arga.
Arga. What's up with the name Argai? Like, bro, I'm not gonna remember that, bro. I'm not. And then I'm like this, bro. I can't tell if he's Native American or is he Asian. Like, what is he? Like, I don't know.
I thought he was Mexican.
Bro, I don't know, bro. So like, like, and then let me introduce characters to kill him off again. Right. It's like, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, yeah, they're gonna die. I mean, I guess they got to kill somebody to get the story going. But at least Eddie didn't feel forced. I thought the chemistry between him, Dustin, and the rest of the crew was pretty good. It wasn't as bad as the first two arcs, the two quests. I found this one more enjoyable, and there's talks of what do you think, dude? I gotta ask you guys this. There's talks of them the way that if you look Steve, how Steve got bit by those bats or whatever those things are, they're probably gonna kill off Steve. Do you think people will be so upset if they kill off Steve?
Most definitely.
Yeah, I would be upset because Steve is probably not, I'm not going to say he's the best crafted character that I've seen in a while, but Joe said it perfectly. Steve was like a big bully jerk at the beginning, and we've seen him progress, and we've seen him develop where like he's supportive of a variety of characters, the kids, his female friend who's a lesbian. It's just like he's grown from being this guy who's a bully to supporting people no matter who they are. So I'd be very upset if he passed.
Yeah, for sure. And that's another thing. How they did it right there. She's like, hey, I'm a lesbian. You see how like smooth that was? Like, it's not forced. It's like, oh yeah, I can see that. It's natural. It. I mean, dude, if they kill off Steve, bro. See, Steve has the good arc, bro, because like you said, Dukes, a bully, and you want to root for this guy.
Right.
So like, if you root so much for this guy, dude, if you kill this guy, how much more is going to hit you? If you look at all the characters, I think Steve would hit everybody the most. It won't even be El. In my opinion, I think it'd be Steve because I feel like out of all the characters, Steve probably has the better arc as redemption. And I could see for them to finish that redemption is them killing them off.
Gotta hope not.
You know, it's interesting because when you describe Eddie as Steve 2.0, it does make sense that they're getting ready to kill off Steve because they're replacing him with Eddie. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you touched on an interesting point, Joe. Steve's the only character who's actually shown a progression or an evolution in his character. If you think about Dustin, he just spent a little crazy, little smart mouth jerk. You love Dustin, but he's been the same kid. You know, all those kids exactly the same. Max, a little bit, but I mean, come on, Max has just been grumpy since day one.
Well, Lucas has grown.
Explain.
Well, I mean, you know, he's trying to venture out, not just be, you know, the geeky nerd who plays D&D. You know, he's playing some basketball. He's trying to get them some cred.
I could see that.
Bro just made a mistake, bro. Like he made the game winner, bro, and still felt like he lost. He's like looking around, his friends running around. But dude, and another thing too, bro, like which I didn't need. The only part that I thought that I could have did without was the Steve and Nancy get back together. Like that they were flirting with it. Like I'm like, bro, like don't go back to that. That's another reason why like he's probably gonna die because of that. You know, when I saw him like and her look the way they look at each other, I'm like, they're gonna kill him off, dude. Because because she still likes the other dude too. She's perplexed, you know. And this late in the game, you really don't need a love triangle. And then that's another thing, bro. That's just lazy writing. Oh, I want her to be successful, and I feel like I'm holding her down, so I'm not gonna go visit her.
Right.
Yeah, you don't even know what to say, bro. This is terrible.
But I'm going to blame that on the California arc because we all agree that the California arc is some hot garbage. So that's California arc.
Yeah.
I enjoyed elements of the quest for Vecna. Like one of the things that were introduced are the jocks who we've never really seen. And we see that the jocks are like big jerks. We're introduced to additional things, but you know what? I would have liked them to have introduced the characters who died back in seasons 2 and 3. Like, even if you just saw them running around in the background, and maybe you did, I don't know, you know, where it's not like I said, let's throw on these red shirts, you know, they basically did the same thing to these kids as they did to the poor Russian brothers who were already in jail, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're just going to introduce you so you can die. It's a rather lazy way of moving a story along. I didn't like that, but I did like being introduced to Eddie. I like being introduced to the jocks. I like the dynamic that was developing between Eddie and Steve. And Joe, you're absolutely right. The reason that they're putting this whole Nancy Steve thing back together is so they can kill him off. I like Nancy. I think Nancy's awesome. She's one of my favorite characters. But yeah, the more you talk about it, guys, Steve's a goner.
You know, one thing I like about this season, the way they show Steve Harrington as kind of like a lovable loser. He's not going very far after high school. You know, he peaked in high school, and that's pretty much it. And people are kind of holding him in that regard, right? And then you've got Eddie Munson, who is, you know, this tough guy. You know, this tough guy. You know, metalhead. Everybody's like kind of afraid of him, right? And then as events start to transpire, all of a sudden he's the scared one, hiding, and running and hiding, and then they get into the Upside Down, and Steve Harrington, his shirt gets ripped off, and he's fighting him. He's getting bit. He's beating him on the ground like the Hulk, and Eddie Munson goes, "Whoa, Steve Harrington is a badass." And it was cool because he lost so much of that, and he's got it back. Like, he thrives in the Upside Down, right? And then speaking of the Upside Down, I mean, like, before we get on to the next quest, I mean, we still have, the cheerleader who got taken, the little nerd kid who got taken, and then the attempted Vecna tried to take Max, and the kids figured out what was going on because they had all these flashbacks. They did all this, history study about what originally happened in this house that they've seen, and come to find out this husband killed this entire family, right, except for the son who lived, and he's traumatized, and they find all this out, and then they figure out, well, like, how are we going to get into the upside down, because like these bats are coming up, and they find a place in the river. Oh, even that one jock got killed in the river, right? And then they get to the upside down, and then they start to find out more about Vecna, right? And then they're down there. I mean, there's a lot that transpired there, right? But when Max got taken, and she started to do that floaty thing up, and her eyes are closing, and they figured out, it's the music that could save her, and they put those headphones on her, and they start playing that song, which is so funny because that song, I think, only made it to like number 30 in the 80s, and it's like number 2 in America right now on the Billboard charts. It's hilarious. It's a great song. I love it, but
It's
I don't remember
Running
it
Up That Hill by Kate Bush.
by Kate Bush. Yeah, I don't remember it in the 80s. It's like a faint memory, but it's not one of those that I was rocking out to. But now it's all I hear, right?
Mhm.
So why don't you guys talk about the Upside Down a little bit? What's going on there with Vecna and what's going on with Max? What do you think of that?
I'm going to jump in here because I felt like they really did some good stuff here. When Dustin figured out that everywhere someone dies, that's where a portal is
Right.
to the Upside Down.
Yep.
That was like, oh, that's some good stuff. When they were in the Upside Down, whether it be when Max was in there, or now that Nancy's in there, or when Eddie and Steve were fighting in there, awesome. Because you feel, I'll speak for myself, I don't know how you guys felt, completely trapped,
Right.
which I've never really experienced in a show before. It's like these guys are completely trapped and you don't know how they're going to get out of it. And then when Nancy was like, hey, I have all this stuff on the journal here, but it goes back to the day that Will was taken to the Upside Down. It's like, no, I'm sorry, Mike was taken to the Upside Down. It's like, oh, they're going somewhere with this. They did a great job with the Upside Down, with making you think, like, what's going on here. So Joe, I know you're gonna jump all over this. What do you think?
Well, with that, it almost felt like it was a time portal because it went before instead of it wasn't the present, which is kind of weird because if they go through it, it's the past, but if they go back to the real world, it's the future, which I thought was kind of like odd because I thought it was like the real time, but I was okay, but I was okay with it. But here's the thought: what would you think about this? Do you think they could have the people that had died? I would think they would be in the Upside Down world, right?
I don't think so, and here's why. Because Vecna gained more power with every person that he killed. That's how he gained power. So I would think, and didn't he say that he absorbed them?
Yeah,
which means pretty much their essence is completely gone.
Yeah, but I would be okay if like maybe their faces came out of his body, help me, or say something, or maybe they become part of the Upside Down, like within like maybe on a tree or something, or just to probably make them more relevant. Like, hey, I'm Barbara. Hey, go this way. I don't know, dude. But to your point, maybe to make them more relevant, because like you said, they're just a bunch of people in the red shirts. Like there's nothing invested in them. I don't really care. As far as the jocks, I thought that was a cool thing. But the last time I checked in the 80s, bro, you weren't talking to your parents that way. You know what I mean? You're not talking in a barn full of adults and be like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And then everyone's like, hey, a guy that's still in high school, you were right.
Yeah, that really bothered me too. I was like, okay, so we have a, police officer here, and you're just going to basically usurp his authority and just start your own little, let's go off and get these guys. Nah, dude, that's not going to happen. Someone to tell you, sit your butt down, bro.
Yeah,
go bounce some balls somewhere.
Yeah, but they're just going to get away with whatever they want.
By the way, Amanda says, so glad to watch you guys live again. I don't even care that I've only seen season 1. You guys are awesome. Great to hear from you, Amanda. Thanks for listening and watching live on the Nerd World Order broadcast. Thank you for always, being part of the NWO.
Yes,
So,
sir.
a quick thing on what Joe was just talking about. All right. And it's like it's all been laid out to me before, right? They're in the past, right? Because she found out through her journals and everything, or her diaries. But in season 1, 2, and 3, they were actually in real time, and we know that only because when Hopper, went over to Russia, it was in present time, right? So there was no time jump there. So then I was thinking, it's like, well, how come the Mind Flayer and the Demigorgons aren't popping up right now? It's only Vecna and his little bats, right? Well, what if Vecna becomes the Mind Flayer? Maybe that's why he had such a big, to do for 11 in the next, in the first 3 seasons. Because if this is then, Vecna's now, or Vecna's before, and the Mind Flayer is the current time frame. You know what I mean? I don't know. It was just a thought.
I think he's the second big boss before the Mind Flayer. I think season 5 would be the Mind Flayer.
I think Joe is right. However, let me point out something that I saw on there's this little social media platform which I try to avoid. It's called TikTok. I watched a TikTok and they showed that how Vecna has the grandfather clock, and whenever someone gets taken, there's a gong.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Every time someone goes into the upside down, that gong goes off. So the thought is Vecna has been present in every single season, kind of in the background. So I agree with Joe because they did describe him as a Mind Flayer's general. But here's the thing, and I could be completely wrong, guys. Please correct me. Didn't the Mind Flayer kind of look like a spider?
Right.
It was huge. It reminded me of like War of the Worlds. Remember that little big creature that was walking? It kind of reminded me of that.
I'm thinking that Vecna, and it's so hard not to move on L's quest, but initially when Vecna was harnessing his powers and learning his powers, he was interacting with spiders. What if those spiders were avatars for the Mind Flayer in our side of the upside down, or our reality? And that's how he started so do I see him as being necessarily part? I feel like perhaps he can sort of integrate himself, because once again, the thing about Vecna is he had an affinity for spiders. He puts himself in a web, and the Mind Flayer IMO looks like a spider. So I see those two being connected in some way.
Yeah. I think we're a perfect transition to the next one, right? But
I think you're right.
I'll let Alfie do a little description, and then I want to come back to the Mind Flayer thing, and then the Vecna.
Sounds good. Okay, well, so the California quest slowly turned into the L quest. 11 gets kidnapped. Well, not kidnapped by the government. She gets approached by the government, and she goes along with them willingly. Of course, she's hurt about all the crap that went down in California. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to go with you guys because you guys can get my power back, and I need my power, right? She doesn't feel like she's a whole person without her power. So it's not only a quest to find her power, but it's a quest to find herself. Yeah. So she goes with them, and she finds that when she gets there, that same old guy running the operation was there. And she's like, oh man, tries to get out. She meets she starts remembering things. She thinks it's real time, but all of a sudden she's remembering that it happened in the past. She's meeting all the other numbers, number 2, 4, 3, 4, 5, except for 8. 8 wasn't there because she must have already escaped. Was it 8 that was in the last season with different powers for some reason? But yeah, so she meets all of them, and she meets this orderly who's like, you know what? I'm going to help you out here. I'm going to teach you a few things because I worked with number 1 personally. So we're already assuming number 1's gone, right? Something happened. The first one, the first experiment never really works, and sometimes they die, right? So it makes sense. Right. And he's like, so you gotta find something that, both angers you and makes you sad, and you can harness that into the power that you need. And, goes in and taps into that, helps her escape and all. And lo and behold, she removes this inhibitor thing from his neck, and you find out he's actually number one. And he goes through, and he just, this whole time she's been freaking out, think that she had killed everybody in the program, but no, it was her fault because she released number one, but she didn't actually do it. And what do you think about that, you guys? Where are you at with that?
I was most irritated by Elle's quest for self, this whole storyline, this quest. It was slow, it was boring. I felt like she's like, "Oh, you're not going to trick me," and then she got tricked, and then suddenly she's down with Papa, and I was like, "Dude, like, yeah." I was like, "Dude, this stinks." But then,
Yep, I agree.
yeah, it was all worth it. It was all worth it. When number one is revealed and then he's revealed and revealed again.
Yep.
Oh my God, dude. That was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all I will say before I turn it over to Joe was that entire boring storyline was completely worth it to get to that payoff. Go ahead, Joe.
Remember, I was telling you that. Remember, like you were like, "I'm not impressed so far from the season," and I'm like, "Bro, just wait till you watch the the last episode, and you're gonna be like, whoa." But to your point, now let's go back to the previous before we jumped into this quest. When you were saying that the spiders could have been the mind flare checking stuff out. If that is this theory, if they are the kind of like, I guess you could call spies to see if he can find someone that he could use, saw number one and saw how powerful he was when 11 opened up the dimension and he brought him in, because you remember when he went in, his body took on a transformation because the mind flare is like, "Oh, you're mine," which his mind's powerful, and that's how he not only does he get strong, but that's how the mind flare gets strong, because when Vecca gets strong, he opens up more gates, which will eventually get the mind flare to come back in there. But how, like when I was watching it, I was like, dude, this dude's number one. Like, I don't know if you can kind of figure it out, like, because I'm like, this dude's always around, like, and he just knows what to say. He's talking about number one a lot, and I was like, dude, he's number one. But then when the payoff, when you see he's number one, he's like, just stay in here, and you're just like, dang, dude. And he goes, it ties, like, I think it was, like, I couldn't tell Alan, but it ties everything up from this season all the way to the beginning of the first season. Like, it comes full circle, which is kind of crazy because they're coming out with season 5. It seems like they tied it up already. Like, if they ended it on this way where he loses, you can almost end it right there because it came full circle. You don't really need the mind flare. If you wanted to say, hey, this guy was the mind flare the whole time, you wouldn't be mad at that just because the guy's so powerful.
Here's one thing I noticed, and I'll call it a comic book trope, which I actually liked. I learned this from Mr. Glass. The hero and his primary enemy always start out as friends.
Right.
Yep.
And so through that whole thing, it was like, we're friends, and then boom, that turn. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool that they did that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was so unimpressed with this arc. It was boring.
Yeah.
I just wanted to punch Papa in the face. I wanted Elle to get her powers so she could explode the dude. But the payoff was so worth it. So absolutely worth it. Alfonso, thoughts?
Yeah, it blew me away. Like, it was funny because, like, there was enough hints to where you're like, oh, he's number one. And then as soon as you get that oh moment, boom, he's number one. Wait a minute, is number one Vecna? Boom, he's Vecna, right? It's just like, oh man, it's all right there. So it was fun because, like, it gave you enough to where as soon as you start to feel it and you're like, oh yeah, that's what it is. They let you know, right? They didn't leave it hanging. They didn't want you to, they didn't play with your emotions. They're like, okay, there it is. You're right. And then you feel smart.
Yeah. And then you look forward to the next 2 episodes, which is in July.
Yeah.
Like, once that ends, you're just like, oh my gosh, why I gotta wait? At least it's only a month, bro. It's not 3 years.
And it's only 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but aren't those 2 episodes about 2 hours long each?
Ooh,
That's what I'm hearing.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's 4 episodes, so I mean that's going to be good. One thing that I really liked is how, you can watch a show and it's like you don't realize what they're laying out, but then when you go back, you're like, oh. So like when they were talking about, when Robert Englund's character was talking about all the stuff that happened when Vecna invaded his house, and you saw it from that angle. But like even when you looked at his son, I was thinking, oh, maybe his son's autistic because he just looked off. Right. And so, and I'm not saying that autistic people are off or anything like that, but that is just how I rationalize his look. I just felt like this kid looks like, there's something different about him. And so I just assumed that, that's what it was. And then as you watch it and they retell the same story through the eyes of number one, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is so good.
Right.
Yeah.
I rewatched like that scene. Like I'll do that in movies or TV shows where if the scene I'm like, dude, that's a dope scene. Like I'll rewind it. I won't even finish the episode. I'll rewind it to go back to that scene just to see it again, because to your point, everything is starting to connect, and just to see it through like the number one's eyes, you're just like, dang, dude. And the whole time, just think about this, dude. He really made Robert Englund's character suffer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was his dad.
And what he did to his mom too, and his sister. Man, sister wasn't doing anything, bro. Like, he was like, oh, the mom was like checking on me and she knew what was up. And, like, I'm tired of my dad. But, bro, your sister, I don't even think the sister said anything, bro. Like, the sister didn't do anything, bro. You just got to just jack her too. But it just lets you know how ruthless this guy is, though, man.
Yeah. One thing I just thought of, which once again, I could be a little bit off with this idea. Okay, so remember when Steve went into the house when they were all searching around in the house, Scooby-Doo style? Steve finds the spiders in the jars and he opens them up.
Yep.
Were those spiders still alive?
Oh, I don't remember.
Because remember, there was a spider that got in his hair?
Yeah, I think
were those other spiders? Okay, so here's my thing. Why would those spiders be alive like 20 years later? Unless, absolutely. It's whoa, this is good, man. I am really, you guys have made me enjoy the show a lot more than I did when I watched it. I may do a Joe and go back and watch certain parts of it.
Well,
when Joe said, wanted to go back and watch certain parts, honestly, I could watch that scene with Max running for that portal over and over. Man, I teared up a little. I was like, oh, she fell again. Oh, she fell again. Get up. Go, girl. You know what I mean? And I haven't felt like that in a long time with movies, because they always do it. And you're like, oh, she's going to fall again. But that little girl, she was fighting for her life. It was beautiful, man. Sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
The reason why I kind of I was like, man, they're going to kill her. The first thing I thought was like, dang, man, Lucas don't need this crap. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, can her brother just get a girlfriend, bro? Like, he's been like, that's his crush, dude. I'm like, you're just going to kill off his crush, man. Like, that would break Lucas down, dude. I'm like, come on, man. Hit a game-winning shot and you're going to lose his girlfriend at the same time, bro? It's like, man, come on, man. That's just like, that would suck. But this quest, I would say the very end, it doesn't make me dislike the other quests as much that we were talking about, because if this ending doesn't end how it is or sums everything up, our conversation would be totally different about this season, which this last part makes it save the season. Just that 20 minutes or less, part right there, like just save the season for me.
Right.
Up to that point, it made it worth it. Like it's one of those things that they actually reward you. Like if you stick around, you will get what you want. And, and this is one of those scenes.
Yeah. You have a lot of movies that try to weave everything together, and sometimes it's so convoluted, but this show has done an amazing job just weaving it all together. Now you can see the full tapestry,
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, let's see here. I am excited for episodes 8 and 9 of Stranger Things. Alfonso, what are your thoughts?
Oh man, I'm super stoked. I mean, I can't wait to see I still think that somehow Vecna is going to evolve into the Mind Flayer. That's my money's on that. Steve is going to live because Steve is just a fighter. I don't see him going down like that. You know what I mean? And if anything, I bet you Eddie Munson is going to save him and die in the process.
Joe, what are your thoughts?
Maybe, but I don't think Eddie 2.0 or Steve 2.0 will be that much of an impact if he does die. I mean, he's a cool character. I mean, I like him, but I don't think it'll be much of a more impact than Steve dying. Not that I don't want Steve dying at all, but I think it'd be more an impact and more. It'd make more sense in the story thus far if it was Steve and not Eddie. Just for the sheer, more people are invested in Eddie than they are, or excuse me, with Steve than with Eddie. But I am looking forward to the next 2 episodes. When I first started watching season 4, I was like, how your body's trained and your mind is trained for a 45-minute to a 55-minute episode, and you're watching it, and I'm like, bro, this feels like it's longer than an hour. And then you're like, oh dang, an hour 20. And then you look at all the episodes, like $1.20, $1.30, $1.17, which I have no problem with. But to our points on the quest, you think it was sometimes I thought it was just too long to get to where they got to get to. But the way that this last episode ended, I am totally okay if the next 2 episodes are 2 hours, if it's going to be as good as that last 20 minutes.
And with that, ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, this concludes this episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. So until next time, I am NWO.
We are NWO.
Nerds Redefined. Booyah!